It's time for the 1430 Connection on 1430 WNAV and 99.9 FM, spotlighting news, newsmakers, and important community issues. Now, with this week's edition of the 1430 Connection, here is WNAV news anchor Donna Cole.
Welcome to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is County Executive Steuart Pittman. This is the second of a two-part interview. Thank you for joining me, County Executive Pittman.
Thank you, Donna.
Were you surprised with the voter turnout, with the way the election went? And were you surprised just from not being a career politician that you were elected?
Yes and no. I had a strong feeling from the very beginning that this was a winnable campaign. Mm-hmm. And I felt like we were on a path and we were on the right path. You just never know where the path is going to turn. So I couldn't guarantee any kind of an outcome. I felt as we got closer and closer that it was likely to happen, which is why in the last week I started pulling together a transition team before we actually won. So I was not that surprised. The polls that we had showed us closing at the end. The teachers did a poll near the end that had us pretty much tied. And I know that others had internal polls. The Republicans had polls that showed them, they said, way ahead. Right. And I didn't believe their poll. I believed ours. And I believed that if we were tied going in, that we would win fairly comfortably, because I was convinced that we had a much better ground game, that we had so many volunteers out there knocking on doors and reminding people to vote. And there was a level of passion in our campaign that I knew would bump us up another 4 or 5 points from the polls.
Now, this is a national issue. We've not seen this at the local level here in Anne Arundel County or Queen Anne's County. Thankful for that. Disinformation campaigns and foreign governments getting involved with our elections. But it is local in that it's happening to all of our citizens. We're seeing things that we might think are coming from one place, and it's in fact being populated by foreign government. Mm-hmm. Is that on your radar at all in the county government and at local levels? How to help media literacy, I guess, is what it is. How to help voters understand what's going on.
You know, the whole question of truth and fact, it does concern me. And we tried to be factual in the things that our campaign put out. There are a few things that came out in the campaign that I felt were not factual, but I expected it, and I just.
But even more so, I'm taking beyond your campaign. I'm talking about, because we will be going into 2020, and this will be happening again to all of us. Mm-hmm. Every citizen of the United States. Is there anything that you can think of that can be done at a local level to help local voters understand what they're looking at might not be kosher?
I'm not sure there is. I mean, I know that there are people who share these Facebook posts,
memes or whatever.
That came from somewhere. I mean, we had somebody I put on my transition committee that then we found out had been putting out things that were offensive and divisive for the community, I thought. But I looked at them and I thought, who did these? They could easily have been things that came from other countries, but I almost don't care where they came from, because of what they said was pretty clearly
so gross.
Stuff. Yeah, it was gross.
Yeah. I mean, I almost wonder if even media has a responsibility to start trying to figure this out, because at the national level, it's going to keep happening.
Yeah, but it's true or false, and the fact checking is part of the media's job, and I think because people do still give some credibility.
Oh, no doubt the media has a part of it.
Yeah, some people won't believe the media because they're told by others that the media is it's all fake news. That CNN is fake news. Or, the most respected media is fake news. So some people won't believe what the media says. I mean, we have the Capitol in this town, which I think is highly respected, and I have a lot of respect for. And they do some fact checking, and I think it's important. I mean, they really are trained. Those reporters are trained that truth matters.
We all, everybody that works as a journalist, truth does matter, and our job is to tell the truth and hold you accountable.
Well, yeah, and I so appreciate that you do that. And I have to say that the Capitol, for instance, even though they did not endorse me, I don't think I could have won the election with the money that we had the Capitol not reported on the campaign. And shared both sides so that the voters could make a decision. I mean, we raised about $700,000 from the last election, this whole election cycle, the 4-year cycle. The committee to elect Shu raised over $3 million. Right. So we couldn't have done it without the press.
When I say the media has a responsibility, I was at a meeting, Associated Press meeting, and I asked, should we as journalists be in schools, go to schools and talk about media literacy? Should politicians be in schools talking about media literacy? Should teachers be teaching media literacy? So it's this whole new concept that we are having to address now that we never used to have to. Actually, back in the day, the Cold War, and your dad was part of that, and you grew up as part of that, and I did too. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, one of the threats that we face now is the stuff that people see. Yeah. And I think a great place to do it is in the schools and engaging the parents in it as well. I mean, we were just at the Department of Health doing a briefing, and we have looked at the whole the Not My Child program, and some of the people who've been involved in that are saying, let's expand that. So it's not just about opioids, it's about all of the threats that parents see their children faced with, and whether it's depression and suicide or whether it's the stuff that they see on the internet. So having a series of meetings with professionals
I love
coming
it.
in.
As a parent, I love it.
Yeah.
We're going to take another short break. We'll be right back on the 1430 Connection. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is County Executive Steuart Pittman. We're talking about all things related to the county, well, some not as well, and going into national stuff. All right, you had a Facebook post that said, yesterday began at Woodside Gardens Apartments in Annapolis at 6:15 a.m. I joined Anne Arundel County Connecting Together, ACT, there for a bus ride to Arundel House of Hope in Glen Burnie. Do you do your own Facebook post?
I do.
I had a feeling. Sometimes
you
can
just tell.
All right, tell me about the bus ride and what you learned.
Well, it took over 2 hours to get there. Yeah,
and not even it's not even the furthest
we
reaches.
changed buses in Annapolis, right by Church Circle. It was a half-hour wait between buses. But I was shocked at how long it took to get from one place to another, especially up to Glen Burnie from Annapolis. And
that was not because of traffic, though, or was it?
No, well, it was partly the route. It was I wasn't paying that much attention really to how much traffic there was. I was talking to other people on the bus.
And this is what bus riders, passengers have been complaining about for a very long time.
Yeah, well, and even worse, it's the frequency of the buses. So the best lines have a frequency of about 45 minutes during peak hours, and then it's less frequent off peak hours. And the reason we did it at 6:20 in the morning is the idea was, what if you have to get to work?
Right.
So it's a really difficult problem to solve because you have to get the service expanded to increase the ridership. I mean, there's not as much ridership because there's not as much service. The bus was pretty full the last part of the trip, especially when we got past Pasadena heading up.
Were people surprised to see you, or did anyone recognize you?
Well, most people didn't know who I was.
Okay.
But I did talk to people who were riding the bus and asked them where they were going and how often they ride the bus. And,
okay.
But no, I wasn't there as county executive. I was there to check it out.
And you've checked it out, and you're going to suggest some
changes.
changes.
And I've sat down with Ramon Robinson, who does transportation planning for the county, and he's got some plans. And I'm also going to be sitting down with the new county executives from our neighboring counties. We got to do something. We got to do more on public transportation. It's the only way to get. I mean, we've grown to the point where we've got to get people out of their cars, and we also it's a tough county to be poor in. And the two things that really get you are transportation and housing. And we have jobs that we need filled, and our economy can't survive without having working people here who are working. And so we've got to solve it.
In a Capitol article printed on December 14th, written by Chase Cook, Anne Arundel County detention officers have screened 180 inmates through the 287G partnership with federal government, resulting in 64 federal detainment requests against immigrants charged with crimes ranging from murder to driving without a license. 36 of those detained were charged with violent crimes that included murder, attempted murder, assault, and other acts. Records obtained by the Capitol show. Your position on 287G was pretty clear, which is?
Well, which is that we need to get the information, we need to get these statistics. And I asked for the statistics at the same time, and I got some. And in fact, we're meeting with Mr. Kokolis, the head of the detention centers, later today. The part of the article that was the that was missing. It mentioned it at the very end a little bit, but the headline should have said that half of the people committed violent crimes and therefore were not impacted by 287G. So the part that people don't always remember is that anybody who commits a violent crime goes into the criminal justice system, and I can guarantee you that none of those folks were then turned over to ICE. The violent criminals are not turned over to ICE. They go to jail where they belong. And the way our system works in all the counties that do not have 287G, before and after, is that every single one of those people who's a violent criminal who goes to jail, ICE knows about them. And when they come out, if they don't have papers, they go straight to ICE.
Regardless, they are still going to know that these people...
It doesn't impact the outcome for a violent offender. 287G has no impact whatsoever on that. So the other statistics that they didn't show us were that the 64 that didn't have papers that they interviewed when they came in, they all go to Baltimore. So they get, that's where they get, well, the 36 go to jail, so they don't go to Baltimore. The ones that are for minor offenses go to Baltimore, they get processed. Some of them come back, but only 6 in a year. Only 6 people who were picked up by 287G's interrogation program ended up in our Ordnance Road Detention Center.
Are you concerned that violent criminals will be let through if you get rid of the 287?
No, because we have a system that prevents that from happening, and we should use that system. They always go through our criminal justice. It would be insane to have somebody come in who committed armed robbery, and then you turn them over to ICE and put them in this low security detention center awaiting their immigration hearing. That would be unsafe. It would be insane even to deport them and let them come back across the border and commit that crime again. We prosecute those people, we jail those people, they serve their time, and then we deport them. It's always how it's been. It's always how it will be as long as I have anything to say about it.
And as far as the revenue being promised by the use of the facility and Ordnance Road, Glenburn, have we seen any of that revenue?
Yes, we have, and that's the part that I really want to get more information from Mr. Kokolas is what are the real costs of the program. So we know that we're getting revenue by housing these people that come in from outside of our county. A lot of them come from Texas, and by holding them for ICE before their hearings. We know that there's money. What we haven't gotten is the costs. So we have a real shortage of detention officers. We've not been able to fill the positions that we have in our detention center, so they're overworked. Some of those folks are working in the ordnance facility. Some of those folks have been doing the interviews for 287G. So we have to have the costs of,
So if it's coming
the way against the revenues, and we have to make a decision. And we're not going to make a decision solely based on whether we're making money from ICE on this. We're also going to make a decision based on whether or not it's a good thing for the county and a good thing for the people who are there. I mean, I do believe.
So you're not shutting this down right away?
Not right away, no.
Okay.
But I have said that we need to look at the possibility of using those beds for something else. And one of those something else's would be
opioid treatment.
Opioid treatment,
right.
Yes, yeah.
And speaking of the opioid epidemic, and you just brought it up, changing around Not My Child, bringing in more factors into that. Has the Not My Child program been successful?
Yes. And I think everybody who I've talked to about it has said it's been successful. And some of the people who've been involved in organizing it have said it's so successful that we need to expand it so that it's not just about opioids, so that it's about all the other threats that our kids face.
My concern, and I know you've heard this from parents that have lost loved ones, are we looking at a nation of rehab facilities springing up only to make money and that aren't actually helping the addicts? Some are saying we need more medication-assisted therapy. What are your thoughts on this?
No, I don't think that's going to happen. I actually think that we're going to be able to make progress on this one. I believe, I'm always an optimist, fentanyl is killing us. I mean, that's part of the reason why so many people are dying. They're going out and they're buying heroin on the street, or they're buying these concoctions of drugs that they get addicted to, and some of which are life-threatening. I am a fan of the medication-assisted, and the reason is that it saves lives. So an example is my wife's first cousin, who died just this year. She had to fly out for the funeral in California. Had been in and out of treatment like a lot of people are, and had been doing fairly well, and then had a relapse. Cat died, boyfriend, things in her life, and needed a fix. It's difficult, and I know a lot of people have had it. It's difficult to get the Suboxone, buprenorphine, the drugs that will help you through that if you're not in treatment. So we need to make those medications available for those situations. She ended up with heroin. Other people have done the same, getting street drugs and dying when they have that relapse. So. And I know we were at the health department this morning, and I was really impressed that they are working with doctors in the private sector to try to get more of them to prescribe the medication, because a lot of them have gotten away from this. They've gotten criticized for doing that work. It's been difficult. The federal guidelines have been difficult, and everybody's recognized that the medication needs to be more available. France made Suboxone available at a very low cost to people, and their death rate went way down. But at the same time, we're changing the whole medical profession. The doctors know they were part of the problem. The manufacturers sure know they were part of the problem.
The distributors, yeah.
And they're coming around. We need to keep working on that as well, so that people don't assume that they should be pain-free, that they should be on opioids, that people have to live with some pain.
Is the county going to continue with the lawsuits that County Executive Shue announced a year and a half ago or thereabouts regarding some of these manufacturers?
We're part of those lawsuits with other counties. They're going on all around. I would love to see those manufacturers pay.
Distributors, pill mills, yeah.
Yep. And we know exactly where that money would go. We would put it into treatment.
We're going to take another short break. We'll be right back on the 1430 Connection. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me is County Executive Steuart Pittman. What did I miss that you would like to convey to our listeners?
There are a lot of issues. We haven't talked about affordable housing. That's one. There's an affordable housing coalition of Arundel County, and it was very interesting. I went to their meeting just this week, and we had a majority of the county council members were there. Both from the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, everybody acknowledging that as we do our general development plan, we need to make sure that we're not just building the luxury housing that seems to be most profitable, but there are places for our young people and our elderly people and our working people to live in our county. So that's something that we're going to be looking at.
That actually spurred another question. You were at a meeting, I was at a meeting, and this is probably about a year ago, Severn River Association meeting, where they were talking about more inspectors needed because so much is getting through and you've talked about more inspectors are needed.
In particular, these construction sites.
Right.
And I was on board, Conservation District, and it's been very frustrating to see that we have the state coming in and saying there's violations, MDE, at some of these sites where temporary stabilization wasn't done. It rains and all that dirt ends up in the
No
rivers.
grass was planted, right?
Right. And our Department of Inspections and Permits has been a bit lenient over the years and letting these builders get away with things and not doing the stabilization that state law requires, and we need to have inspectors enforcing that. But I think that there will be a change of culture there, and we need our Department of Inspections and Permits to understand that they're working for the citizens and they're working for the environment to protect it. And I think there's a lot we can do just by enforcing the laws on the books.
Thank you very much for your time.
All righty. Thank you.
This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will see you next week.